Welcome back. Let's continue implementing this item interping state. In item.h, we're going to want to add a curve variable. This is going to be a variable for a curve. So here in the private section, we're going to forward declare a class uCurveFloat. This is the class of a curve that works with float values. We're going to call this item z curve because this is a curve that's going to take care of the z component of our item's location. Let's go ahead and give this a u property. And we'll make this edit defaults only so we can only set this from the default blueprint. We're also going to make this blueprint read only. And we'll give it the category item properties and the meta allow private access true meta specifier. So let's go ahead and give this a comment and say the curve asset to use for the item's z location when interping. So this is going to hold that curve. So where are we going to get that curve? Well, we're going to create this in the Unreal Engine editor. So let's go ahead and create that curve in this video. So go ahead and compile this. And while that's compiling, head over into the editor. And here in the editor, in the underscore game folder, let's create a new folder and let's call this curves. And this will be where we keep our curve assets. So here in the curves folder, we're going to create a new curve. We're going to right click and go to miscellaneous and choose curve. Now, when we create a curve, there's three different types that we can create here. We're going to choose curve float, and this creates a curve that simply deals with float values. So click select and rename this curve, and we're going to call this item z curve. So now we have a new curve asset. Double click item z curve and we have our curve editor. Here's where we can create our curve. Now we can add points to this curve by simply right clicking and using add key. You can also use the middle mouse button. Now once we add a key, we have this little tick mark here. It's a little hard to see because it's so small, but it's a tiny little triangle. And we can set the horizontal and vertical axis values by coming up here to these little boxes here. So let's give this a value of 0 and 0, and our little key here will be here in the graph at 0 on the horizontal and vertical axes, and we can right click and drag to move our graph around. So we're going to add a few points on this curve. Now remember, this is kind of what we want our curve to look like. Our item's z location is going to move with respect to time according to a graph that sort of looks like this. So if we want to create that curve here on the graph, we're going to add some more key points. So left click anywhere on the graph so we can deselect that first key. And now right click and select add key. This will add a second key to our graph. Let's put this key at a time of 0.2 and let's give it a value of 1.5. Now it's going to zoom way up off the screen and we can drag to find it up there. Here it is at 1.5. But we can come up here where it says zoom to fit, also the F key. Now we need to select both of our keys, and now if we hit the F key, then it will zoom to fit our entire graph. Let's continue by creating another key. So click anywhere on the graph to deselect those keys, and let's create another key. So right click and add key, and let's select that one, and we'll put this one at a time value of 0.3, and we'll give it a value of 1. So that's going to put it down here at 1 on the vertical axis. Okay, click anywhere to deselect that key, and we're going to create another key. For this one, we'll give it a time value of 0.6. And we'll also have this one at a value of 1. So basically, our item is going to float around 1 for about 0.3 seconds to 0.6 seconds. Now finally, we're going to add one more key. So click off of the key and right click to add a new key. And we'll put this one at 0.7 seconds. and we're going to give its value negative 0.5. So if we scroll outward with the middle mouse button so we can see all the points of our graph, we can select all of these by clicking and dragging so we have them all selected. And if we click zoom to fit, then our graph will show us all the points here in the graph editor together. So here's our graph, and it looks a little bit jagged. So we're going to want this to be a little more smooth. So with all of the points selected, if you don't have them selected, it's just as easy as clicking and dragging over all the points, and right click, and we can select auto. What this will do is it will make our curve nice and smooth with round corners. That way it's not so jagged. And each point has little handles that we can use to sort of alter the shape of the curve. Now, we want to click so that we don't have all the points selected and just select one of the points. I'm going to take this point here and I'm going to bend the handles a bit so that it's curved only slightly. I don't want it going down too much. And I'm going to select this point over here and I'm going to bend it just a bit so that our z value is going to stay close to 1 while it's hovering here. So adjust your curve accordingly so that it's relatively flat for this duration here. Now we can select this second curve point here and we can bend the handle so that it has a little bit bigger of a hump here. In fact, I'd like the peak of this to reach almost the 2 point. So if I go ahead and mess with it a bit, I can play with it until this hump almost reaches the 2 on the vertical axis. Now down here it's going to kind of undershoot the 1 point. So we can kind of adjust this until it looks about even. And that's okay if it bobs down a little bit. Once we play test this, we can come back and adjust the curve if we need to. So I'll go ahead and take this point and play with it a bit. Now another thing we can do is select a point and right click, and if we select break, now we can adjust the left and the right handles individually. So if I select the right handle, I can adjust it like this, and if I select the left handle, I can adjust it as well. So once I'm satisfied with my curve, I'm going to go ahead and click Save and close out of that, and now I have a curve asset, and we can use this when we're implementing our item interp state. So that will conclude this video. We have now created a curve and we're ready to use that in our code in the future videos.